A major challenge with groups working on documents together is the draft, review, and final cycles, which gets you from idea or concept to finished document. I am Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. I think copywriters, marketers, and business development professionals can be advocates as well as facilitators in the documentation process in order to support marketing materials, procedurals, and other types of action-oriented documents. I'm not just talking about the release document or a technical paper, but the actual documents that transform how a business functions. And the very first document you'd want to work on is your collaborative editing process. Now, it's going to be slightly different for every company because some companies have complex tools and some companies have simple tools and some companies have no tools at all. But the most simple tools that you can use is the Microsoft Office suite. Any Office suite works fine. In fact, you can actually save documents as rich text format, and you can have collaborative editing between multiple types of software packages. But that's the technical side, and that's where most people stop. The process side of getting from idea to finished document, especially when you're in an environment where you have multiple reviewers, where you might have multiple documents in flight at the same time, or you have other types of subject matter experts contributing to documents, you really do need a system, which I'm going to outline here today. Now, of course, this is not a complete system because I don't know what tools your client has. And in fact, a lot of cases, your clients may have different tools. In fact, in your own office, you may want to adopt this type of system to make your writing easier. When I'm doing client work, I may have 10 or 15 different documents in flight. It could be 3 sales letters and 3 lead generation pieces. And then each of those lead generation pieces have social media ads or pay-per-click ads, and that's a bundle. Now, I know a lot of copywriters are doing these one-off jobs, and they're struggling between jobs. And I talked about in a different program how to set up packages of solutions rather than doing piecework, because piecework press releases is a $99 press release. A complete marketing program or public relations program is like $10,000. Now, we won't go into that right now, but the key is how do you manage 5, 10, 15, 20 documents in flight? Each of those documents could have individual decision makers, subject matter experts that provided input. They may have editors who are doing the readability reviews. They could even have peer groups or audience test groups, because testing is so cheap today, where you're testing ideas. One such example might be you're writing a sales letter for a client. You create 3 lead generation pieces that each touch on individual concepts of the sales letter. So the sales letter has the big idea, and then it has 3 key concepts that if the prospect agrees to those concepts, then buying is automatic. Well, you may take each of those concepts, extract them from the sales letter while the sales letter's in draft, put them in flight as lead generation pieces, and just see how many leads you pick up. Now, you might even test 5 key concepts. That you're only going to put 3 in the letter, but you want to know which of the 5 are most of interest, most action-oriented to the prospect. How do you get this in place? Well, first off, you start with writing in draft. Before you write your draft, you will have some kind of key outline, idea, or big idea concept. Then you write your draft, and you'll mark that file draft. So at the end of the file name, you'll underscore draft. That's usually what we do. When you have people to review those drafts, you're going to take a static image of that draft and not email it to them, not send it to them. You're going to send them to the link. In fact, it's always best to do a walkthrough on a webinar or something like that. Walk through the letter and make the edits and changes all in the same document. You're going to track changes, and you're going to have some kind of change log at the bottom of the document. Now, we can go into specific detail like we do at the collaborative editing training session that I do. But the key here is that you want to know who's been doing revisions on the document and where are they working in the document. You want to see track changes so that you can go and make a bunch of changes and then accept those changes and know who was there at the review. And then finally, when the document's complete, you want some kind of evidence of completion because you're going to bill the client on this. This change log helps you evidence that you've got approval that the document was done. If the customer said the work was done, then therefore they have to pay the invoice. But again, we're tying in our editorial process into both our business process, our billing and client work, and also how do we have so many different people in the same documents without them stomping on each other. Now, there is etiquette when you're working in a shared document. For example, you turn on track changes and you make sure your track changes references everybody by who made the change. You don't want somebody to go in there and it was changed by Microsoft user 2345. You want their actual name in there so that when they change something, you can see who changed it. Now, a lot of people are going to be uncomfortable with making changes in a document, and then some people are going to be overly comfortable making changes in a document. And to make that balance, you work through sprints. You basically have editorial cycles. So if somebody's a little verbose, you encourage them again to use comments, to use sidebars, and other means of identifying where the change needs to be done. If you're going to use highlights, for example, I use highlights. I'll highlight a paragraph in yellow if the paragraph is unclear and needs additional information, and then I'll use a comment to specifically describe what is that change. Does it need to be expanded? Is it unclear grammatically? Is it unclear concept-wise? And then after it's been reviewed, it might go to green. But if it's just completely wrecked, we'll just make it red, and then we have to go through, make it yellow, make it green. But the point I'm making here is that this is an agreed upon approach to manage and edit this document. Not something you come up with and you get frustrated because nobody else is following. You do a document kickoff where you talk about the big idea, you talk about the goals and objectives of the document, you talk about what are the requirements, how will we judge success with this document. Then you create a draft document, which you then have a review session, and that review session is tracked in the change log. And the review session, you're gonna make sure you're on track. You're gonna see where there's things that need to be added or removed. Then after you have the review session, you have your first draft release. That first draft release might be pre-final. It might be, have a bunch of action items in it. But the key to a collaborative editing process is that you don't have 45 revisions. You have a big idea. Everybody agreed on the outline. You have a review of a kind of a rough draft. And then you have a final draft. And then you have a document that is approved. If you get to a final draft and you have people who say, oh, by the way, I'd like this document to also do these 3 other things, you're shot. You're never going to get to the point where you can test a sales letter while you're writing it through lead generation, for example, or you can test concepts through social media or paid advertisements. You'll never get there because the goalpost would be moving. So it sounds regimental, but it keeps you from a lot of rewrites. It keeps you from a lot of false starts. Now, when you have people get in there and they don't feel comfortable adding to a document or making modifications, and by the way, as you get closer to your final document, you will have a single editor. In the beginning, you might have people to just do brain dumps. Hey, you're a subject matter expert on X. Please give me 3 paragraphs about X and why it's important that X is in the product. And they could just take a chunk of the document and just vomit on it, essentially brain dump on it. And then you can take that input. Now, you can also use what's called source files, where instead of them being in the actual draft, you maintain a master draft, and then you would have different source inputs from your subject matter experts or from your contributors to the document. Now, one powerful way to do this is to actually use a survey and survey the subject matter experts, capture their information in either a database or in a document itself that has their responses to questions, and then take those questions from the source file, translate them into the language of your draft, and then have the draft reviewed for feedback. So what we're really setting up here is very small editorial procedures. We're getting agreement up front from everybody that they're going to follow these procedures. And these procedures always move towards a final draft that is approved and finished. Because I know you're all thinking, wow, Justin, that doesn't work for my projects because it seems like my project go on forever. The document is never written. It's never finished. It's never complete. Everybody's got their feedback. And then by the time we're done with the document and we believe we've got everything straight, we show it to the customer and they're tired of looking at it and they change something else. Well, this actually does happen, and I understand it happens. But again, we're going through a systematic structure of big idea, approval, outline, draft, brain dump, research, final draft, review, approval. We're doing that because writing a document is not about the process. It's about that end result. And if we don't start with the end result in mind and get an agreement on it, then yes, you're going to have documents that float around and spin off a lot of other materials and get nothing accomplished. Now, the model I described where you're writing a sales letter and you're taking concepts out of the sales letter and testing them with lead generation, and then again, when people become a lead, what do you give them? You don't have a sales letter written yet. Well, you can give them articles, you can give them podcasts, you can give them video. That can distract from getting the actual sales letter done because you could end up with, volumes of materials that support the concepts that are in the sales letter. But if there's no sales letter to close the deal, then it's kind of like masturbation. Nothing really happens. Ultimately, what you do in that case is you decide up front that, hey, while we write this sales letter, we're going to test headlines using social media. We're going to test headlines using pay-per-click ads. Those ads are going to go to a draft, which is a very short form, focused a test case. And that's going to test concept A and concept B. Based on those results, then we're going to go to a survey to get feedback for the concepts, the problems, the challenges. Could be an ask campaign. And then from there, we're going to finish the sales letter. So you can use the same thing I'm describing here. You set up the concept up front that, hey, look, we're not just writing you a sales letter. We're getting you competitive intelligence. We're generating leads, and we're producing for you a model to have a sales letter that converts. Because customers ultimately don't want sales letters. They want leads and sales. This all falls into collaborative editing. It is the same structure that we're inputting different subject matter expertise. We're importing different benefits. We're importing different headlines as the result of testing and ultimately producing a sales letter, marketing piece, or anything else. Now, throw the marketing side away. The description I gave you of an overall process, you can outline, write up, and then share. If you can't fit your editorial process on a single sheet of paper and make it clear enough that every person involved is going to be constructive in the project, then you can also add administrative staff who work as facilitators who you've trained. Now, that's another thing that we do here. I don't have a lot of time to go into it, but when I'm working on 10, 15 different projects at a time, I actually have a small editorial staff or copywriting staff who will go through the pieces. So if I'm writing a large technical document for a client, I have subject matter experts. I have business line reviewers. I have policy that, while it's not a human, the policy governs how the document is produced. And I also have a brief instructional on how to contribute to the document. For other clients, they have administrative staff that do a lot of the cut and paste. They might extract the 3 key points from a sales letter, put it in a PowerPoint presentation. That PowerPoint presentation is then used on a quick webinar to test the concept or in front of an audience to test concepts. But again, if you have a structure, then you don't have to do it yourself because that structure can become a process. That process can be agreed upon, and then you can start assigning in roles and responsibilities. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. We do talk a lot about the business of copywriting. I see so many copywriters fumbling around on jobs. If you've got questions about collaborative editing, how do you get all the people aligned to finish a document that closes sales, or in other cases helps customers get more from a product, or even structures the business process itself so that a business can be more strategic, can be, your actual marketing campaign is a business process and it must be properly implemented in order for it to be as powerful as you've written it. If you've got questions about that, visit us at www.adbriefings.co.uk. And if you need specific help in your business on your project, when you just mention that when you ask your question, I'll be happy to get you some information about paid consultations. Ultimately, though, when you have a process for producing documents and you apply it in a business, you're now able to produce a higher quality document because you're not doing a lot of the back and forth and fighting fires. You're able to focus more energy on the compelling nature of your writing in the sense of words that sell. And finally, you get the damn document done on time for the client and can get paid, because the process I described here, while I didn't go into detail, does give you evidence that the customer agreed on a certain approach. The customer maybe even puts down a deposit. The customer is involved in the review cycle, and the customer approved the document for finish. At that point, it won't matter if they use the document or not. They got to pay you. That's the way it works. Again, I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefings Copywriting Tips. I want to thank you for listening. This has been our regular podcast. You can also get more information at www.adbriefings.co.uk. Thanks for listening.